Imagine waking up every day full of unstoppable energy, laser-focused, and ending your nights completely recharged, stress-free, and ready for success. In the next few minutes, you're going to discover life-changing morning and evening routines that will transform your mind, body, and spirit, starting today. This audiobook takes you through 10 powerful chapters, from energizing your mornings, mastering your mindset, and supercharging creativity, to evening reflections that release stress, nightly habits that attract peace, and tiny adjustments that yield massive results. You'll learn how to blend morning energy with evening calm to create unstoppable momentum in your life. Every single insight is practical, actionable, and designed to be applied immediately. No fluff, no ads, just pure strategies to level up your life every single day. Subscribe now and join us for daily audiobooks that guide you to success, focus, and ultimate personal growth. Chapter 1. Wake up powerful. Energize body, mind, soul daily. The moment the eyes open is a moment that belongs to no one else. It is the first choice of the day to drift back into the fog of distraction, or to stand and shape the hours that follow. Waking powerful does not mean waking perfect. Waking powerful means entering the day with a calm command over body, mind, and soul. It begins with small decisions that compound into an unshakable life. The way the body is treated in the first hour sets the tone. The clarity of thought that arises from simple, disciplined actions determines whether the day is navigated or surrendered. The soul, quiet, fierce, and steady, needs a practice that honors its depth. This chapter offers clear, practical steps and the inner framework required to energize each facet of yourself. Use these steps as a scaffold. They are not rules to cause shame if missed, but tools to reclaim control. Open the eyes and attend to breath. Before the phone, before the noise of the world, take 3 full, deliberate breaths. Breathe in through the nose for 4 seconds, hold for 2, and exhale for 6. Feel the coolness of the air entering the nostrils, the chest rising, the soft resistance as the diaphragm presses. This breathing anchors the nervous system. It signals that the body is safe enough to shift from sleep to wakefulness without panic. Do this breathing while still in bed if necessary. It requires no movement, but immediately interrupts the autopilot of reactive morning behavior. Next, place bare feet on the floor and stand. Notice the temperature underfoot, the texture of the rug or wood. Grounding is not mystical, it is practical. Standing connects the body to gravity and the present moment. In those first 60 seconds upright, straighten the spine deliberately, shoulders down, chest open, head balanced. Feel the alignment. Imagine the spine as a column bearing quiet authority. This posture alone changes hormone response and sharpens resolve. Hydrate. Muscle, brain, and skin function are affected by simple dehydration after sleep. Drink a glass of water and notice its temperature, how it slides down the throat and wakes the digestive system. Add a slice of lemon if desired for sensory pleasure and a subtle metabolic cue. This action is a message to cells. Care is coming. If caffeine is part of the morning, make it a mindful ritual rather than reflex. Prepare coffee or tea with attention, smelling the aroma, feeling the warmth in the hands. The ritual itself begins to train the mind to move from reactive to intentional. Move. The body is a machine designed for motion. 5 to 15 minutes of deliberate movement releases stiffness, increases circulation, and awakens the nervous system. This does not require a marathon. A controlled sequence works best. 2 minutes of gentle joint rotations, neck, shoulders, hips, knees, ankles. 5 minutes of dynamic stretches that reach and open the chest and hips, followed by 3 to 5 minutes of paced bodyweight movements. air squats, slow lunges, or a series of push-ups done with focus and breath. Keep the movement slow enough to feel every joint and muscle. The difference between moving and moving with attention is the difference between being alive and being attentive. The body becomes an ally when movement is regular and reverent. Cultivate a brief cold exposure. It can be as simple as a 30-second cold splash to the face or a cold water rinse at the end of a shower. The breath will deepen. The skin tightens, the mind sharpens. Cold trains resilience in small bursts and solidifies a habit of choosing discomfort for growth. Approach cold exposure with respect. Begin moderate and increase gradually. The aim is not to punish, but to expand the range of what is tolerable and to teach the nervous system that discomfort does not equal danger. Write for 5 minutes. Keep it raw and specific. Use 3 prompts to channel focus. What matters most today? What must be completed? What, in this moment, is within control? This is not a diary for drama. It is the anchoring of priorities. Handwriting is preferred because the tactile act of pen meeting paper slows the mind into clarity. If handwriting is impossible, type in a single-line list. The first lines should be actionable and brief. No more than 3 top priorities. Place them where they will be visible throughout the morning. Practice a short mental rehearsal. Close the eyes for 2 to 3 minutes and visualize the desired outcomes of the day. Picture the moments that matter, not an endless wish list, but scenes of you performing with composure. See the posture, hear the tone, feel the steady breath. This is not fantasy, this is preparation. Rehearsal primes neural pathways and reduces anxiety when challenges arise. It trains the brain to recognize the path forward. Nurture the mind with a small, powerful intake. 10 minutes of reading something that elevates thinking, philosophy, a passage of poetry, a paragraph of biography that models discipline. Choose a source that is brief but dense with meaning. Reading that challenges thought is a way of exercising mental muscles. Resist the urge to jump into social media. Social media disperses attention into fragments. Begin with a concentrated nutrient and then allow the world to enter on your terms. Anchor the soul. Rituals vary by belief and inclination, but a soulful beginning is non-negotiable. Dedicate 3 to 7 minutes to reflection, gratitude, or a meditative practice. The practice can be silent acknowledgement of 3 things that are present and good: light in the room, a loved one's health, the ability to act today. Speak the gratitude aloud if possible. Cultivate a steady inner voice that is firm, kind, and accountable. The soul's anchoring practice prevents the day from being swallowed by petty urgencies. Create a clear plan for interruptions. A day will not be free of disturbances. The advantage of a morning routine is not its ability to prevent interruption, but to sow resilience, so disruptions are navigated rather than reacted to. List 2 coping actions: a breathing reset, 3 deep breaths, and an immediate reframe question: what can be done next that brings progress? These tiny rehearsed responses stop the cascade of reactivity. Fuel the body intentionally. Breakfast should not be a scavenged convenience. If time allows, prepare a balanced meal that combines protein, healthy fats, and fiber: an omelette with vegetables, yogurt with nuts and fruit, or a simple blended smoothie with spinach, protein, and a tablespoon of nut butter. Eating with attention, chewing slowly, noticing flavors, transforms food into fuel rather than a hurried reflex. If eating immediately is not feasible, prepare the components the night before. The discipline of preparation multiplies the benefits of the morning routine. Design a pre-exit ritual for the home and for the mind. This is a compact checklist. Keys, wallet, phone placed deliberately in the same spot. Mentally review the top 3 priorities written earlier. Breathe once, square the shoulders, step out with intention. The pre-exit ritual is the bridge between internal preparation and external action. Treat the step across the threshold as an act of commitment. Real-world application is simple because complexity breeds failure. Select 3 anchor practices from the list above and commit to them for 30 days. Perhaps begin with breathing, 5 minutes of movement, and 3 gratitude statements. Master these until they are automatic. Then add another practice. The goal is not to overhaul the self in 12 hours. It is to construct a life through consistent, incremental discipline. Use a simple tracker, a marked calendar or a habit app. Do not track for indulgence. Track to cultivate proof that progress is possible. When setbacks occur, missed mornings, rushed days, unavoidable crises, reclaim without drama. The Stoic approach honors that the past cannot be altered, and that energy is best spent on the present choice. If a morning is missed entirely, perform a simplified midday reset, 3 deep breaths, 1 minute of movement, and a prioritized task list. Recovery is part of the system. Resilience grows not from perfection, but from the speed of return to practice. Words carry power. Speak to yourself with the tone of a wise coach, firm, precise, and compassionate. Replace self-criticism with pragmatic questions. What is useful now? What action moves the day forward? This language reframes chaos into possibility. Habit is not formed by motivation alone, but by small repeated actions performed despite mood. The discipline of morning practice accumulates into a life that is less at the mercy of circumstances and more guided by chosen action. A powerful morning does not guarantee ease, but it guarantees that the first battle of the day, the battle for attention and intention, is often won. The body feels stronger, the mind clearer, and the soul steadier. Energy becomes a consistent currency rather than a volatile commodity. Each morning is a new ledger. Credit the day with small victories and let them compound. Finish the first hour by committing to one measurable outcome before noon. Make it specific, small and valuable, a call completed, a report drafted, a walk taken. The completion of one meaningful task in the morning amplifies momentum and raises confidence for the rest of the day. Carry forward the calm authority that the routine gifts. The habit of beginning with purpose gradually transforms identity. Habits cease to be actions and become the shape of character. Wake up powerful not as a slogan, but as a practice. It is a discipline of attentiveness, a ritual of small chosen actions that connect physiology with philosophy. The day will challenge and chaos will arrive. A cultivated morning routine does not remove those elements. It equips the individual to meet them with steadiness, clarity, and a quietly fierce resolve. Return to these practices daily, refine them ruthlessly for what works, and let the energy they generate become the engine of long-term growth. Chapter 2. Morning Mindset Hacks that Transform Entire Day Instantly. The moment before action is where the mind is won or lost. A morning mindset is not a collection of motivational slogans. It is the pattern the day will follow. That pattern is formed by tiny decisions made while the world is still dim and the brain is forgiving. Shifting the mind in the first 10 minutes reorients attention, clears confusion, and builds momentum that lasts. The hacks that follow are practical shortcuts, mental tools to interrupt autopilot, prioritize what matters, and carry intention into every hour. They are designed to be simple, repeatable, and sharp. Habits that carve clarity into the chaos of a modern life. Begin by treating the wakeful moment as an asset, not a problem to solve. Before checking any screen, pause and name one thing that can be completed before lunch that will make the day feel successful. Say it out loud as if recording a fact. 3 words, specific and measurable. This single utterance narrows the mind's focus and prevents scattering attention across dozens of low-value tasks. When the brain is anchored to one clear outcome, it begins to resist distraction. The voice that names the task serves as a quiet commander. It is practical, unemotional, and direct. The mood of the morning is heavily influenced by inner dialogue. Replace scattered worry with tactical questions that direct action. Shift from "what if this goes wrong" to "what is the next correct step?" A correct step is small, visible, and immediate. Open the project file, call the vendor, email the brief. This reframing pulls thinking out of rumination and into execution. The mind favors movement. Thought completes itself only when met with motion. Turn thinking into manageable motion in the first 15 minutes. One highly effective practice is cognitive priming through sensory anchoring. Sit for 90 seconds and take 3 deliberate inhalations, focusing on the sensation of air at the nostrils and the slight coolness on the upper lip. Let the exhale be longer than the inhale. As breath steadies, name 3 values that will guide the morning. For example, clarity, courage, kindness. Keep them brief. Pair each value with one visible action. Clarity, review the outline. Courage, make the call. Kindness, reply to one message with warmth. The pairing converts abstract ideals into concrete behavior and makes the values actionable rather than decorative. A single, short practice that transforms the morning quickly is the 1-minute context shift. It takes 60 seconds, but resets priorities faster than a scroll-through of notifications. Close the eyes or soften the gaze. Breathe naturally. Mentally scan the immediate calendar and look for the first moment that requires presence, the first meeting, the first focused work block, or the first errand. Imagine stepping into that moment with a steady breath, a clear intention, and no more than 2 deliverables in mind. Open the eyes and write one crisp instruction on a sticky note that can be followed without additional thought. Post it where it will be seen. The 1-minute context shift prevents the mind from carrying over the previous night's anxieties and anchors attention to a practical next step. Another potent habit is externalizing uncertainty. The brain dislikes unresolved problems because they consume attention invisibly. For 5 minutes, write an if-then list for likely obstacles. If the internet drops, then switch to offline drafting. If an email goes unanswered, then follow up with a short call. If fatigue arrives, then take a focused 10-minute walk. The value of this small investment is outsized. It moves potential derailments from vague dread into rehearsed responses. When interruptions arrive, the brain accesses a pre-made plan and conserves energy for execution rather than panic. Language shapes reality. Adopt a tone of measured authority in self-talk. Replace dramatic verbs like ruined or disaster with neutral ones such as delayed or changed. When the mind uses calm language, it becomes easier to act. The Stoic choice is to observe what happened, name it cleanly, and choose the next correct step. This modifies emotional trajectory without denying feeling. Teach the mind to speak in terms that are useful. Small sensory rituals compound. A morning that begins with deliberate warmth, a brief stretch that opens the chest, a hand running under warm water, the act of tasting a nutrient-dense bite, signals to the nervous system that the body is tended. Pair one of these sensory cues with a mental command, stretching while saying the day's top outcome, sipping water while naming one reason the work matters. The combined sensory and cognitive input forms a stronger memory than either alone, making the new pattern more likely to repeat. Timing matters more than duration. Short practices repeated daily beat rare, grand gestures. Design micro-habits that fit into natural transitions. Upon sitting up, do the 1-minute context shift. Upon standing, perform 30 seconds of chest opening. Upon leaving the front door, recall the 3 values. Micro habits anchor the mind throughout the morning and make consistency inevitable because they require negligible time and deliberate attention. Over 30 days, these fragments aggregate into a habit architecture that consistently produces calm, focused mornings. A real-life example clarifies how these hacks function under pressure. A project manager named Ava led a distributed team with multiple time zones. Mornings were a battleground of competing messages and urgent requests. Ava adopted a routine built around the 1-minute context shift and the if-then list. Each morning, she spent a minute defining the single meaningful outcome to reach before noon. Often a decision that would unblock a colleague or a deliverable that would shape the day's work. She then listed 2 likely interruptions and their short responses. When critical emails arrived at 8:15 a.m. demanding immediate attention, Ava used her pre-written responses to triage without panic. She redirected some items to later slots and focused on the noon outcome. The result was tangible: fewer reactive hours, clearer team expectations, and steady progress on projects that had previously oscillated between momentum and stall. The team noticed the difference and began mirroring parts of her practice, creating a compound effect across the organization. One more practical rule: control the first information you consume. The morning feed should be chosen, not default. Replace the habit of scanning headlines with a disciplined intake, a short passage of writing that elevates thought or a clear project brief. The first content is the seed the rest of the day grows from. If the seed is thin, the day stumbles. If the seed is nourishing, even difficult moments are more likely to be handled with composure. Accountability accelerates formation. Pair the practice with a small external marker. A simple check on a calendar, a tally on a habit tracker, or a 1-line note saved in a journal provides proof that the mind did what it said it would. The evidence of action matters more than motivation. After 20 days of consistent micro-habits, the tracker will show a pattern that visual feedback converts the abstract intention into something concrete and reliable. When progress stalls, return to the core principle: attention is a resource. The morning mind is trained by deliberately allocating attention to a few high-leverage actions. Reduce the number of choices by deciding in advance what matters. Freeing attention frees energy. Use that energy to act, not to argue internally. Finish the first part of the morning by setting a small deadline for the noon objective. Commit to having the outcome partially or fully completed by that time. Time-bound focus creates urgency without anxiety. If the outcome is done early, move to the next meaningful task. If it is not done, use the if-then plan to isolate the block and remove it, or reschedule it with a clear instruction. This approach keeps agency high and avoids the slippery slope of unfinished tasks expanding to fill the day. Cultivating a transformed morning requires patience and ruthlessness. Patience to allow small practices time to root, and ruthlessness to remove rituals or stimuli that steal attention without return. The morning mindset hacks described are not techniques for instant perfection. They are tools for repeated alignment. Use them daily and measure their effect in work completed, calm retained, and relationships handled with more presence. A change of morning changes much else. The brain that begins with a sharp, practiced intention treats obstacles as problems to solve rather than threats to identity. That shift is profound. It preserves energy, increases agency, and builds a quiet confidence that spreads beyond the morning. The work is simple, but the reward is cumulative. Commit to the first-minute decisions and the 1-minute shifts. Over weeks, those minutes will become the carver of long-term capability and the engine of consistent results. Chapter 3. Daily rituals that supercharge creativity and focus naturally. Creativity and focus are not opposing forces. They are parts of the same muscle that responds to routine, clarity, and small doses of solitude. Daily rituals do not force genius into existence, but they prepare the ground where ideas can rise and attention can sharpen. Creativity thrives when the mind has room to wander within safe boundaries, and focus strengthens when the soul recognizes that attention is being invested, not wasted. This chapter gives precise, sensory-rich methods to build rituals that feed both imagination and concentration, practical steps you can use immediately, and one signature practice designed to become the backbone of your creative work. Start the morning with an environment that signals work. Before opening a browser or checking messages, arrange a single clear workspace. Notice the temperature of the air, the way the light hits the desk, the slight resistance of the chair when you settle. Remove two things that do not belong: a device with social notifications and any clutter that pulls on attention. The mind reads the world quickly. The first impression of the workspace primes what follows. A tidy, intentional surface acts like a handshake between your present self and your future focus. Sound changes thinking. Choose a short auditory backdrop that matches the type of work ahead. For deep concentration, a 3-track loop of ambient tones or instrumental music with no sudden crescendos keeps the mind steady. For creative brainstorming, a single track with light, repetitive rhythms can open associative pathways. Keep the volume low enough that the sound sits behind thought rather than pushing it. If silence feels empty, a consistent audio layer fills the cognitive gaps with minimal distraction. Temperature and touch. Anchor attention. When sitting down, place a small object in the non-dominant hand, smooth stone, metal token, or a wooden bead. The tactile presence is a discreet tether to the present moment. If the mind wanders, squeezing the object restores contact. Cold exposure on the face, splashing water or rubbing a cool cloth sharpens perception, while warm tea sipped slowly calms overstimulated nerves. Use these tactile cues intentionally. They are simple, portable, and immediate tools to reclaim focus. Set a creative boundary before starting any project. Give the work a 3-part constraint: a time limit, a limited tool set, and a single deliverable. For example, write for 40 minutes, using only a pen and paper to produce one structured paragraph or a rough sketch that communicates the core idea. Constraints force decisions, reduce the tyranny of infinite options, and invite the brain to solve within defined space. Paradoxically, limitations create freedom. They encourage depth instead of width. Keep a small, portable idea capture system within reach at all times. Use a pocket notebook or a single note on your phone reserved exclusively for raw ideas. No editing, no rating. Record fragments, images, single words, or questions. This archive acts like a safe deposit box for the mind. Once an idea is captured, the brain stops hoarding it and can return to current focus without fear of losing value. Over weeks, review the notebook for patterns. Repetition signals fertile territory. Suspend judgment during the initial creative phase. For 20 minutes, adopt a policy of moratorium on critique. No deleting, no rewriting, no ranking. Produce freely. The internal critic is useful later, but early censoring kills novel associations. Create with the permissive discipline of a draftsman who fills pages quickly, knowing polishing will come afterward. This separation of generation and evaluation protects flow and increases volume, the raw material that skill transforms into work. Move deliberately to change mental posture. Every 90 minutes, stand and do 3 minutes of movement that involves the whole body: a short walk, arm swings, or dynamic stretches that open the chest and hips. Movement interrupts cognitive fatigue and provides the mind with fresh oxygen and perspective. After movement, return to work and take 2 deep breaths before resuming. The body remembers that focused effort is cyclical and that rest is part of sustainable concentration. One singular practice to anchor creativity and focus is the sprint refine method. It combines a timed creative sprint with a structured refinement phase. The sprint is a focused burst, 25 minutes of uninterrupted high-energy creation with a single tool. During this period, the goal is volume and forward momentum. Produce as much material as possible without judging it. Immediately follow the sprint with a 5-minute physical reset. Stand, stretch, drink water slowly, and step outside if possible. Then enter the refine phase. 20 minutes of focused editing, where the aim is to shape one aspect of the work: clarity of sentence, visual balance, or logical flow. The ritual ends with a 1-minute note identifying the next specific action for the next session. Repeat the cycle 2 to 4 times, depending on capacity for the day. The rhythm of production, physical reset, and refinement trains the brain to alternate between expansion and precision. Over time, the sprint refine method makes creation less intimidating and more predictably productive. Design sensory transitions that cue the start and end of creative sessions. Light a candle, adjust a lamp, or flip a small switch that is only used during focused work. The repetition creates a conditioned response. The brain begins to associate that sensory change with concentrated performance. Smell and light are particularly strong associative signals. The same scent or lamp level used consistently will eventually prime deeper attention within seconds. Protect creative solitude. Schedule one unbroken block of time each day with the explicit rule: no meetings, no messaging, no multitasking. Treat that block as the most important appointment. If interruptions are likely, communicate the boundary to colleagues and family in advance, and set a visible indicator like a closed door or a colored sign. Solitude is not avoidance. It is the necessary space where complex thoughts can be formed and tested. A real-world example clarifies how rituals produce tangible results. Marcus, a freelance graphic designer, struggled with scattered work and missed deadlines. He introduced a simple ritual, a short pre-work setup that included tidying his desk, selecting one instrumental playlist, placing a smooth stone in his left hand, and applying the sprint refine method to each client task. Marcus committed to 2 sprints every morning before answering emails. Within 3 weeks, his output improved, and the quality of initial drafts rose. Clients noticed fewer revisions and faster turnaround, which led to more referrals and higher rates. The consistent ritual also reduced stress. Marcus reported sleeping better because his day began with structure rather than a scramble. His creative confidence increased, and the work that once felt endless now became manageable and even enjoyable. Measure progress with specific indicators, not feelings. Track the number of sprints completed, the percentage of deliverables finished during the refine phase, and the count of ideas captured each week. Quantifiable markers provide tangible feedback that the rituals are working. If metrics stagnate, change one variable, shift sprint length by 5 minutes, alter the sensory cue, or modify the refine focus. Small experiments reveal what consistently produces both quantity and quality. Rituals will fail sometimes. Human life is irregular. When a session breaks down, avoid moralizing. Pause. Note what interrupted the flow, and write one corrective action for the next session. If sleep deprivation undermines creativity, prioritize rest before increasing output. If social media is the culprit, move the device to another room during sprints. The aim is to iterate, not to punish. The architecture of creative days is built from repeated small choices that respect attention and nourish imagination. Over time, rituals shift identity. Instead of being someone who waits for inspiration, the person becomes someone who produces reliably. The nervous system learns the cadence of work and rest. Creativity gains scaffolding, and concentration becomes a cultivated skill rather than a hit-or-miss gift. Adopt the sprint-refine method. Refine the sensory cues, protect a block of solitude, and keep track of concrete progress. These practices cultivate a life where ideas appear more often and work emerges with clarity. The daily rituals are not a shortcut to genius. They are the steady labor that makes genius possible. Chapter 4. Evening Reflections, to release stress and find clarity. The close of day is not the end. It is the final act of a continuous performance. How it is handled determines how tomorrow begins. Evening reflection is the disciplined pause that turns chaotic hours into coherent lessons, clears the mind of debris, and prepares the body and will for restorative rest. The practice is not sentimental, it is methodical. It is a nightly architecture that separates what can be improved from what must be released. When the mind is allowed to process events with clarity rather than rehearse them in anxious loops, stress decreases and decision-making sharpens. This chapter hands you a precise, sensory-rich routine that converts mental clutter into usable insight and leaves you anchored for the next day. First, create a low sensory chamber before starting. Dim the lights until the room feels calm rather than frigid. The glow should be soft enough that the edges of objects blur slightly. Turn off bright overhead fixtures and choose a single warm light source. The change in illumination signals the nervous system that evaluation time has begun. Put away screens for at least 30 minutes. The blue light and endless scroll hijack reflection. Instead, choose paper, a clean notebook or a single document that will hold the evening's notes. The physical act of closing a laptop and opening a journal communicates intention to the body and the mind. Begin the process with a 1-minute body scan while seated. Feel the weight of your shoulders against the chair, notice any tension around the jaw, and sense the pulse at the wrist. The aim is not to empty thoughts, but to locate where stress is held in the body. Naming tightness reduces its power. Press your fingertips gently along the temples and notice the cooling or warmth. This focused bodily check allows emotional observations to be translated into concrete signals. The throat tight because of an argument, the chest heavy after overwork. Tracking these sensations gives practical clues for targeted responses. Record 3 things that occurred today: 1 success, 1 challenge, and 1 surprise. Keep each description to a single sentence. This practice forces compression of experience into its essential elements. The success could be small: a call completed, a problem reframed, a kind word given. The challenge is the obstacle that consumed time or energy. The surprise is anything unplanned that shifted perspective. Writing these down reduces their mental weight and provides raw material for a short analysis. Analyze the challenge with a single structured question set. What was under control? What was out of control? What is one corrective action for the future? Be specific. If control was limited by a missing resource, name the resource and 1 immediate step to secure it. If error came from a communication gap, identify the precise phrase that should have been used and how it will be tested next time. The point is to convert vague regret into a compact, testable experiment. This small cognitive conversion transforms frustration into tactical data. Next, close the loop on the day's responsibilities. Review the to-do list and mark 3 items: 1 to complete before sleep, 1 to carry into the morning with a fixed start time, and one to delegate or delete. Scheduling the morning task with a clear start time reduces decision fatigue on waking. Choose the item that will move a project forward, not the most tempting, easier task. Delegation is an act of discipline. If nothing requires your personal attention, move it off your plate. Deleting obsolete items is a radical clarity exercise. Remove what has no measurable return. Practice gratitude with a sensory detail. Name 2 things you appreciated today and describe them through one sense: sight, sound, smell, or touch. Perhaps the way evening air felt against your skin during a walk, or the tone of a colleague's voice when they thanked you. The specificity anchors gratitude in reality rather than float it as platitude. Gratitude practiced this way recalibrates perception and highlights resources rather than losses. A central practice to adopt is the nightly unload and reframe. It is a single, repeatable action with 4 precise steps. First, unload. Write a full, unedited paragraph about what continues to bother or occupy the mind. Do not censor. Let the tension inhabit the page. Second, reframe. Rewrite the paragraph with a practical lens. Turn every complaint into a statement of fact, followed by a possible response. Third, schedule. Take 1 sentence from the reframed section and convert it into a timed task for the next day. Include start time and the first physical action to begin it. Fourth, close. Perform a short closure ritual. Press the pen to the final line. Fold the page or place a paperclip on the corner. The closing sign acts as an external cue that the work of thought is temporarily complete and that mental energy may be redirected to rest. Integrate a physical wind down that responds to actual bodily signals. If sleep is elusive, use progressive relaxation. Tense muscle groups for 5 seconds and release, moving systematically from feet to face. If the mind remains loud, switch to a 10-minute creative diversion that does not involve screens. Sketch an object in the room, practice a short, melodic hum, or fold paper slowly. The diversion must be absorbing but gentle, an activity that occupies attention without spiking adrenaline. These physical transitions bridge cognitive processing and biological readiness for sleep. A real-world account illustrates how evening reflection prevents depletion. Jordan managed a small cafe and frequently arrived at the end of long shifts with a mind that replayed every customer interaction. Nights were restless and mornings were heavy. Jordan began using a 20-minute routine: a dim light, the nightly unload and reframe, 3 sensory gratitudes, and then a ritual of brewing a small cup of chamomile tea without rushing to drink it while seated. Within weeks, the replaying of incidents slowed. Problems that once grew in the evening were resolved the next morning with planned actions, and sleep improved because the mind had an explicit place and time to process. The cafe's service quality rose as Jordan's patients returned. Customers noticed the shift, and staff reported clearer communication. When reviewing patterns across nights, look for repeating triggers. If conflict shows up frequently, the corrective action may be practicing an assertive sentence or clarifying expectations earlier in the day. If hurried evenings correlate with open work tasks, enforce a hard stop 1 hour before intended bedtime. If news or social media catastrophes are recurring stressors, institute a strict cutoff and replace that window with calming sensory rituals. Accountability increases adherence. Pair the nightly reflection with a simple marker, a physical check mark in a pocket calendar, or a single star placed next to the day on a visible wall chart. The visual sequence of nights with completed reflections becomes proof of consistency, and the psychological effect is powerful. Small, visible wins accumulate into a habit identity, someone who settles the day rather than someone who carries it forward like a burden. Avoid moralizing missed nights. Habits are built through iteration, not perfection. If an evening is skipped, use a shortened mid-evening review. 3 minutes for the nightly unload and reframe in abbreviated form, and a single sensory gratitude. Missing once is data, not failure. Note the reason then. Schedule the routine for the next available quiet hour. Recovery is the essential skill. The speed and calm of return determine long-term success far more than the rare perfect night. Language matters in reflection. Replace catastrophic descriptors with functional nouns. Setback instead of disaster, delay instead of failure. This diction reduces emotional inflation and keeps the mind in a problem-solving posture. The Stoic approach treats sensations of anxiety as signals that demand attention, not as proof of character collapse. Naming is neutralizing. End the night by scripting a concrete, tiny action to begin the morning. Something as specific as stand, drink cool water, and write the top task at 6:30 a.m. The presence of a clearly defined first action removes the usual fog of decision-making at sunrise and leverages the evening's clarity into a focused start. The practice of evening reflection converts accumulation into insight. It takes raw experience and makes practical knowledge. Over time, nights grow less reactive and more generative. Stress decreases not because life becomes easier, but because the mind no longer doubles the cost of events by holding them in perpetual rehearsal. Daily reflection stabilizes mood, sharpens priorities, and prepares the body for genuine rest. Adopt the nightly unload and reframe, honor sensory cues, schedule repair actions, and finish each evening with a precise plan for tomorrow. Repetition will transform a short nightly discipline into a life habit that preserves energy and enlarges capacity. Chapter 5. Secrets of Successful People's Morning Habits Revealed Daily. The morning is the foundation upon which the rest of the day is constructed. For successful people, it is not a series of rushed decisions, but a sequence of deliberate actions designed to create energy, focus, and clarity. The secret is not in the number of steps, nor in expensive routines or elaborate strategies. It lies in consistency, intention, and the ability to turn small habits into powerful leverage over life. These mornings are carefully curated to optimize the body, sharpen the mind, and align the day with larger goals. By observing what highly effective people do, patterns emerge. They rise with purpose, focus on high-leverage activities first, and cultivate mental and physical states that support sustained performance. Understanding these principles and applying them practically transforms ordinary hours into accelerated progress toward meaningful objectives. A key principle is deliberate awakening. Successful individuals do not simply rise when the alarm rings. They use the moment of waking as a tactical advantage. The first minutes after sleep are spent preparing the mind for action. This might mean spending 2 to 3 minutes in mindful breathing to stabilize heart rate and attention, or sitting upright with a few gentle stretches to mobilize the spine and awaken circulation. The body receives a signal activity is expected, and readiness is rewarded. This brief intentional engagement primes the nervous system for focus, creativity, and discipline throughout the morning. Hydration is treated as a non-negotiable tool. Drinking water immediately after rising restores homeostasis after hours of fasting and primes metabolism. Many successful people enhance this with a sensory ritual, a slice of lemon, a splash of cold water on the face, or a deep inhalation of crisp morning air. This minor practice awakens both body and mind, creating a bridge between sleep and productive action. Hydration is more than physiological. It becomes a symbolic first step towards self-care and accountability for the day. Focus on the mind begins with a targeted mental exercise. One practice that is particularly effective is called the priority anchor. It is a brief exercise designed to select the single most meaningful task for the first 2 hours of the day. Write down one outcome that will have disproportionate impact on long-term objectives. This is not a vague aspiration, it is a clearly defined deliverable that can be completed or meaningfully advanced. The clarity of purpose sharpens attention, limits distractions, and reduces decision fatigue, because the brain is oriented to one measurable target. Completing this task early creates a momentum cascade that carries the energy forward for subsequent activities. Physical activation is another common thread among high achievers. Morning exercise is rarely about aesthetics. It is about biooptimization. Movement increases oxygenation, releases neurochemicals that enhance alertness, and fosters a sense of accomplishment. Even a 20-minute session of bodyweight exercises, yoga flows, or brisk walking dramatically improves cognitive clarity. The routine is not about duration or intensity alone, but about the consistency of signaling to the body that energy will be used intentionally, not squandered. The rhythm of movement primes the mind for problem-solving, resilience, and sustained creativity. Reflection and gratitude are often overlooked, yet they are present in the mornings of highly effective people. A 2 to 5 minute reflection on achievements, lessons learned, and things to appreciate recalibrates perspective. It prevents the mind from defaulting to worry or reactivity. Writing 3 points in a journal or noting them mentally while standing in silence creates a deliberate pause that fosters composure. The habit also strengthens emotional intelligence by encouraging observation without judgment and by reinforcing the link between effort and reward. Another consistent element is the avoidance of distractions in the first hour. Successful people often delay checking email, social media, or news until the core morning routine is completed. These inputs scatter attention and trigger reactive behavior. By protecting the early window, the brain maintains alignment with priorities, and actions are proactive rather than reactive. This habit is a practical barrier against external demands hijacking focus. It preserves cognitive bandwidth and allows deliberate execution of essential work. One practice that encapsulates these principles is the focused first hour. Allocate 60 minutes immediately after waking for a combination of hydration, movement, mental clarity, and priority work. Begin with 2 minutes of breathing or meditation to stabilize attention. Follow with 5 to 10 minutes of physical activation, such as stretching or bodyweight exercises. Then write down the top outcome for the next 2 hours, describing it in actionable terms. Dedicate the remaining portion of the hour to progress on that single outcome. Remove distractions. Phones are silent, email unopened, notifications off. Repeat daily. This concentrated hour compounds results over weeks, producing tangible progress and mental clarity that spills into the rest of the day. A real-life example demonstrates the impact of such a routine. Sophia, a startup founder, struggled with scattered mornings, low energy, and endless distractions. She implemented a focused first hour, 2 minutes of breathwork, 10 minutes of stretching, and 30 minutes dedicated to the most important task of the day. She journaled her priority outcome and avoided screens entirely during this period. Within a month, Sophia observed significant improvements. Her projects moved faster, decisions were clearer, and her stress levels decreased. Team meetings became more productive because she arrived mentally present and organized. The cumulative effect of one disciplined hour transformed not only productivity but also confidence and overall life satisfaction. Consistency amplifies the effect of morning habits. The brain thrives on predictability. When it knows the sequence of events is repeated daily, energy is channeled toward execution rather than indecision. Highly successful individuals often pair morning routines with tracking systems. A simple checkmark in a journal or a digital habit tracker provides visual confirmation and reinforces discipline. The combination of internal motivation and external proof accelerates habit formation, making the sequence automatic over time. Language, too, is a tool in the morning. Speaking in precise, actionable terms reinforces focus. Instead of vague affirmations, use concise declarations of action. I will complete the prototype sketch in the next 90 minutes, rather than I want to be productive. This aligns the mind with measurable performance rather than abstract aspiration. Words, repeated consistently in the morning, prime the cognitive system for execution and reinforce agency. The final element is reflection on alignment. Even within a highly structured morning, pause briefly to ask, does this activity align with my long-term goals? The question serves as a compass and prevents routine from becoming ritual without purpose. Successful people constantly recalibrate priorities, ensuring energy is invested in meaningful outcomes. This continuous micro-assessment maintains strategic orientation without paralyzing action. Implementing these habits does not require perfect execution from day one. The focus is on repetition, refinement, and gradual incorporation. Start small, adopt one or two key elements of the routine, and expand. Early wins are motivational. They build momentum. Gradually integrate additional steps. Journaling, reflection, physical activation, and prioritization. The sequence grows organically, embedding energy, focus, and purpose into the morning in a sustainable way. Ultimately, the secret of successful people's mornings is less about exotic routines and more about deliberate design, consistent practice, and alignment of body, mind, and intention. Each action is purposeful, awakening with clarity, fueling the body, anchoring the mind, focusing on high-leverage tasks, and delaying distractions. These repeated steps create a resilient framework where stress is minimized, decisions are sharper, and performance is elevated. Morning habits, when executed thoughtfully, are the engine that drives the day, and by extension the life. By adopting the focused first hour and other deliberate practices, the first minutes of the day become a strategic advantage rather than a reactive scramble. Energy is cultivated, clarity is enhanced, and priorities are executed with precision. Over time, these routines compound, producing not only professional results, but also emotional stability, creative output, and a strengthened sense of agency. Morning habits are not merely actions, they are investments in the quality, direction, and depth of life. Chapter 6. Nightly Practices that Attract Peace, Wealth, and Joy. Evening is a powerful crossroads where intention meets reflection, and the choices made before sleep ripple into every corner of life. Nightly practices are not indulgent rituals or empty gestures. They are the precise architecture that cultivates calm, clarity, prosperity, and joy. The end of the day is the final opportunity to influence energy, mindset, and action before the unconscious mind takes over during rest. Done intentionally, these hours convert accumulated stress into insight, reinforce alignment with goals, and generate emotional and financial momentum. By committing to deliberate, consistent nightly habits, the mind and body prepare for regeneration, and life begins to follow a pattern of peace, productivity, and purpose. The first step in creating an effective nightly practice is a controlled transition from the external world to personal reflection. Dim the lighting, silence intrusive noises, and adjust the environment so it signals the body and mind that the day is concluding. The senses absorb cues rapidly. Soft illumination, gentle scents like lavender, or even a small tactile change, such as sliding into a specific chair, signals that focus is turning inward. These environmental markers are subtle but powerful triggers for attention and mental clarity, anchoring the body to the transition without effortful force. Once settled, begin a deliberate mental sweep. Scan the events of the day, tracing each interaction, decision, and activity, not to judge, but to catalogue. What succeeded? What presented obstacles? What evoked gratitude or frustration? Identify these elements without labeling them as good or bad. The purpose is to create awareness rather than judgment, establishing a foundation of knowledge that informs actionable adjustments. This awareness prevents recurring stresses from dominating tomorrow and transforms scattered experiences into actionable insights. A critical practice to incorporate is called the evening alignment mapping. It is a structured, stepwise approach that connects the day's experiences to larger objectives while reinforcing emotional balance. Begin by writing 3 brief statements. 1 describing the most meaningful action accomplished today, 1 identifying a challenge, and 1 naming a source of joy or peace experienced. Next, for the challenge, note 1 corrective measure or reframing that can transform it into a productive lesson. Finally, capture 1 tangible action to initiate tomorrow that directly contributes to personal or professional growth. This simple practice trains the mind to translate experience into strategic steps rather than letting emotions spiral unchecked. Physical rituals enhance the cognitive and emotional effects of nightly alignment. A brief period of gentle movement, stretching, yoga, or even slow walking releases accumulated tension in muscles and joints. Coupled with slow, controlled breathing, this primes the nervous system for relaxation while sustaining alertness enough to engage in reflective thought. The body's state is inseparable from the mind's capacity to process, internalize, and plan. Neglecting it reduces the efficacy of any reflective or intentional practice. Sensory engagement further anchors calm and intention. Many people underestimate the psychological impact of touch, sound, and taste in shaping nighttime states. For instance, sipping a small cup of warm tea with attention to texture and aroma engages the senses and signals to the brain that rest and contemplation are prioritized over distraction. Alternatively, placing a smooth object or token in the hand while journaling provides a subtle tactile cue that enhances presence and focus. Over time, these sensory elements condition the mind to enter a state conducive to clarity, peace, and receptivity to insight and creativity. One practice that encapsulates nightly attraction of peace, wealth, and joy is the triple reflection projection method. It is executed in 3 interdependent steps. First, reflect on peace. Identify moments that generated inner calm or satisfaction. Note the circumstances and what internal response facilitated the feeling. Second, reflect on wealth. Capture 1 productive financial decision, professional advancement, or strategic step that strengthens resources. This can be tangible, like completing an important task, or intangible, like a learning moment that will yield future returns. Third, reflect on joy. Highlight interactions, achievements, or personal indulgences that produced genuine happiness. Once these reflections are completed, project forward by selecting 1 small, measurable action in each category to initiate tomorrow. Peace might involve a short meditation. Wealth could be prioritizing a high-value task. Joy could be scheduling a quality interaction. This practice fosters a feedback loop. Awareness of daily contributions, combined with actionable intentions, ensures that nights reinforce life's highest priorities. A real-world example demonstrates the transformative power of nightly practices. Daniel, an entrepreneur managing multiple business ventures, frequently ended his days exhausted and scattered, with a mind replaying conflicts and missed opportunities. He adopted the triple reflection and projection method each night. He spent 5 minutes identifying peaceful moments, 5 minutes on wealth-oriented accomplishments, and 5 minutes noting instances of joy. Then he wrote 3 small actions for the next day, each linked to one reflection category. Within a month, Daniel reported not only deeper sleep, but also improved clarity in decision-making, increased financial productivity, and stronger emotional resilience. His team noticed heightened responsiveness and fewer reactive interactions. By translating nightly reflection into next-day action, Daniel's evenings became a source of compounding advantage. Nightly routines also involve clearing cognitive and digital clutter. Successful individuals often implement a closing-the-loop ritual. All pending communications are triaged, the workspace is reset, and tomorrow's top priorities are noted in a visible format. This prevents unfinished mental tasks from invading sleep and morning energy. Completing this ritual allows the mind to release tension accumulated from unresolved issues, creating space for creativity, insight, and problem-solving during rest. Journaling can be a powerful adjunct to nightly practice. Documenting thoughts, decisions, and reflections strengthens the neural pathways that reinforce learning, intention, and gratitude. Structured journaling, focusing on peace, wealth, and joy, provides both historical insight and predictive power, enabling the identification of patterns that generate success. Reviewing past entries can reveal recurring stresses, missed opportunities, or reliable sources of happiness, allowing for more informed planning. Language used during reflection is crucial. Replace emotionally charged or self-judgmental phrases with neutral or actionable terms. For example, instead of "I failed to finish the project," note "project incomplete." Next step, allocate 60 minutes to finish. This linguistic adjustment converts regret into strategy, reduces anxiety, and enhances a sense of control. The mind internalizes this tone, promoting calmer, more rational decision-making. Consistency amplifies the effects of nightly practice. Even brief routines repeated daily build momentum, while sporadic efforts fail to condition behavior. The neural pathways of attention, reflection, and intention solidify with repetition. Over weeks, the practice becomes automatic, requiring minimal deliberation yet producing maximum benefit. Nightly practice shifts from being an activity to becoming part of one's identity, someone who ends each day with purpose, clarity, and energy for growth. Ultimately, nightly habits that focus on peace, wealth, and joy cultivate a life where emotional equilibrium, resource growth, and genuine satisfaction coexist. They provide the structure needed to transform raw experiences into strategic insight, reduce stress, and prepare the body and mind for restorative sleep. By integrating reflective, sensory, and actionable elements, each evening becomes an opportunity to amplify control over life, reinforcing both internal calm and external effectiveness. Over time, these practices create a continuous loop. Intentional reflection fosters tomorrow's success, and tomorrow's success strengthens the quality of subsequent nights, producing a rhythm that attracts abundance in every dimension of life. Chapter 7. Master your day before breakfast with intentional action. The first hour of the day holds extraordinary power. Before the world demands attention, before the phone vibrates with notifications, and before the mind becomes entangled in the noise of tasks and responsibilities, there exists a window of unmatched potential. How this hour is used determines whether the day is driven by discipline or drift, by intention or reaction. Mastering the day before breakfast is not about extreme routines or complicated schedules. It is about strategic actions performed consistently, actions that prime the mind, energize the body, and set a trajectory toward meaningful outcomes. It is the practice of claiming ownership over time before external forces intervene. Intentionality is the cornerstone of this practice. The first act upon waking is a conscious choice, no matter how small, that sets a tone. Begin by identifying one critical outcome for the day, phrased in precise, actionable terms. Rather than be productive, choose something like complete the first draft of the proposal or call 3 clients with clear objectives. Writing this down immediately upon rising converts abstract ambition into a tangible mission. This singular focus acts as a compass, anchoring thought and effort in a defined direction and reducing the tendency to scatter attention among trivialities. Physical activation is integral to claiming the day. A brief sequence of movement, whether stretching, yoga, or bodyweight exercises, awakens circulation, elevates alertness, and signals the body that energy will be directed intentionally. The mind mirrors the body. Readiness in one system cultivates readiness in the other. Pair this movement with conscious breathwork. Slow, deliberate inhales and longer, controlled exhales create clarity and calm, preventing early-day stress from dictating emotional or cognitive states. The combination of motion and breath provides both vigor and focus, essential for maximizing the first moments of activity. A key practice that exemplifies mastering the day before breakfast is the 3-action launch. It requires choosing 3 specific, high-value actions to complete before the first meal. These actions must be meaningful. They advance professional goals, enhance personal growth, or improve well-being. The goal is completion, not perfection. Begin by writing them down in order of importance. Allocate focused time blocks to each, even if only 10 to 20 minutes per action. The commitment to finishing these tasks before external demands arrive establishes early momentum and provides a psychological advantage. Success is already earned, while others are still waking. The environment plays a crucial role in reinforcing intentionality. Remove distractions from the immediate vicinity. Phones on silent, computers closed, unless required for the task, and any unnecessary clutter cleared from the workspace. Sensory cues influence cognitive states. A clean, organized, and intentionally arranged environment signals readiness and minimizes unconscious resistance. Even minor adjustments, such as opening a window for fresh air or adjusting lighting to natural tones, enhance alertness and mental clarity. Mental priming is another critical element. Begin with a 1-minute reflection on purpose and values. Ask, which action today, completed skillfully, will move me closest to my goals? Visualize not just the action itself, but the desired outcome and its impact. The mind begins to rehearse efficient execution, anticipates obstacles, and forms solutions before starting. This mental rehearsal strengthens decision-making, improves focus, and reduces wasted effort. Successful individuals often describe this as a moment where their intentions crystallize and the day's path becomes visible. One tangible real-world example illustrates the power of pre-breakfast mastery. Liam, a software developer, struggled with fragmented mornings, endlessly checking messages and feeling reactive rather than proactive. He adopted the 3-action launch. Before eating, he would perform 10 minutes of stretches, write down the day's top 3 priorities, and complete the first segment of coding for his project. Within 2 weeks, Liam noticed profound changes. His afternoons became less pressured, critical tasks were completed early, and a sense of calm replaced habitual morning anxiety. He gained confidence knowing he had already achieved meaningful progress while the rest of the world was still adjusting to the day. Energy management is essential. Avoid the temptation to overexert before breakfast. Instead, focus on high-leverage tasks that require attention but not extreme physical endurance. Completing these tasks creates a sense of accomplishment and fuels motivation. Incorporating short bursts of physical movement during breaks between tasks maintains circulation and reduces mental fatigue. The goal is not to drain the body but to engage it strategically, combining motion and mental work to maximize efficiency. Journaling reinforces intentionality and reflection. Even 2 to 3 sentences summarizing progress on the morning actions creates accountability and allows for tracking momentum over time. This practice provides insight into what routines are most effective and highlights areas for adjustment. Observing patterns across days builds self-awareness and cultivates confidence. The mind learns which behaviors reliably produce results, reinforcing the habit of deliberate pre-breakfast action. Language matters in the first moments. Speak to yourself with precision and agency. Replace vague affirmations like "I hope to be productive" with declarative statements. "I will complete my first coding segment and submit the report outline." The specificity transforms passive aspiration into active commitment. Words in the early hours are catalysts that align thought, emotion, and action, ensuring momentum from the outset. Sensory anchors amplify focus. Pair each action with a sensory cue. The first sip of water, the sound of a timer, or the tactile sensation of a pen on paper. These anchors condition the mind and body to associate specific cues with focused execution. Over time, even brief exposure to the anchor triggers attention and readiness automatically, enhancing efficiency without conscious effort. Consistency compounds results. While single days of pre-breakfast mastery create short-term advantages, the real transformation emerges from repetition. Neural pathways are strengthened with each execution, reducing friction and making the routine almost automatic. Success becomes a self-reinforcing cycle. Early accomplishments produce confidence, which in turn supports further intentional behavior. This compounding effect distinguishes high performers from those who react to the day instead of leading it. Flexibility is critical within structure. Life is unpredictable, and not every morning will allow for the full routine. In these cases, the principle is preserved by executing even one high-value action before breakfast, maintaining the psychological and strategic advantage of early accomplishment. Missing components are not failure but data. Note what was skipped and integrate it into subsequent sessions. This adaptive approach prevents discouragement and maintains the integrity of the habit over time. In conclusion, mastering the day before breakfast is a practice of claim and control. It requires discipline, environmental design, mental priming, deliberate action, and reflection. By performing high-leverage tasks first, engaging the body and mind intentionally, and anchoring focus through sensory cues and journaling, the first hour transforms into a launchpad for the entire day. The 3-action launch crystallizes this principle: complete meaningful tasks, generate momentum, and set a tone of agency. Over time, this practice compounds, producing greater clarity, resilience, and measurable progress. Days are no longer reactive sequences of events. They become intentional journeys, each begun with purpose, energy, and direction before the world has even had breakfast. Chapter 8. Tiny morning adjustments that yield massive life results. The smallest shifts in the morning often produce the largest effects over time. Tiny adjustments, seemingly inconsequential, compound into momentum, clarity, and results that change the trajectory of life. These minor tweaks do not require extraordinary effort, expensive tools, or hours of time. They are simple, intentional, and repeatable, yet they leverage the first moments of the day in ways that multiply energy, focus, and productivity. The secret is not in doing more, but in doing differently, deliberately, and consistently. Each choice, no matter how small, becomes a building block for outcomes that feel disproportionate to the effort. Start with sensory priming. A morning adjustment as subtle as opening the window for a few deep breaths of fresh air alters both physiology and mindset. Oxygenation proves alertness, and the slight shift in temperature awakens the nervous system. Combine this with a focused posture check. Stand, roll the shoulders back, lengthen the spine. The body interprets these physical cues as signals of readiness, and the mind mirrors this readiness by becoming more receptive, organized and proactive. The impact is immediate and invisible to the outside world, yet it sets the stage for everything that follows. Hydration is another tiny adjustment with outsized impact. Drinking a glass of water first thing replenishes fluids lost overnight, jump-starts metabolism, and creates a tangible first achievement. Pair this with a small ritual, adding a slice of lemon, drinking mindfully, or feeling the temperature of the water as it moves through the body. The sensory awareness reinforces the habit and conditions the mind to associate the act with energy, attention, and health. These moments are tiny but repeated daily. They compound into enhanced resilience and mental clarity. Micro movements in the morning also yield powerful results. Even 2 or 3 minutes of stretching or gentle joint rotation improves circulation, reduces stiffness, and signals to the body that activity and focus will be required. Tiny movements prime the mind unconsciously, reinforcing readiness and attentiveness for the tasks ahead. The body and mind are intimately connected. Small actions in one system cascade into the other, producing disproportionate benefits over the course of the day. A single practice that captures the essence of tiny morning adjustments is the 1-minute pivot. Each morning, identify one habit or action that is slightly better than the previous day. It could be taking an extra deep breath before starting work, writing a 1-sentence plan, or making the bed. The key is that the action is small, measurable, and repeatable. Perform it immediately after waking without negotiation. Over time, these incremental pivots compound into substantial behavioral change, creating a foundation for confidence, clarity, and purpose. Mental framing is equally vital. Take 1 minute to articulate a precise intention for the day. Focus on one desired feeling, outcome, or attitude. Instead of saying, "I want a productive day," specify, "I will approach challenges with patience and solve the most important task before noon." This specificity anchors behavior and reduces drift, turning vague ambition into actionable orientation. Tiny, precise intentions act as a mental magnet, pulling attention and energy toward the most meaningful activities. Environment can be adjusted with minimal effort, yet produce maximal impact. A single cleared surface, a neatly placed notebook, or a window opened to morning light signals that focus and productivity are expected. The brain reads these subtle cues unconsciously. Over time, the environment becomes a trigger for alertness, energy, and clarity. Small, repeatable arrangements reinforce habits without requiring willpower or elaborate planning. A real-life example illustrates the power of micro-adjustments. Claire, a freelance writer, felt mornings were wasted in indecision and low energy. She implemented 3 tiny changes: opening her window for fresh air and stretching for 2 minutes, drinking a glass of water mindfully, and writing one prioritized task for the morning. Each step took under 5 minutes, yet within 2 weeks, Claire noticed her mornings were no longer stressful. She completed her first writing assignment by 9:00 a.m. Her energy was higher and her stress decreased. The compounded effect of these minor actions transformed her productivity, illustrating how tiny, deliberate adjustments can yield massive results. Attention sequencing magnifies impact. Once small actions are in place, sequence them in a deliberate order that flows naturally from one to the next. For example, hydration before stretching, then writing a prioritized task, followed by a brief mental review of the day. The brain recognizes this sequence as a pattern, and with repetition, it becomes automatic. Momentum builds, because each action primes the next, producing an efficiency that magnifies the benefit of the tiniest adjustments. Time management at a micro level reinforces the effect. Set a 2 to 3 minute timer for each adjustment. Initially, the brief focus prevents overcomplication while creating discipline. Small, contained bursts of intention allow for experimentation and refinement without causing overwhelm. As the routine solidifies, these microblocks can expand naturally into longer sessions, but the starting point is always small and sustainable. Language and internal dialogue influence results. Replace vague statements with actionable language. I will drink water before starting work, rather than I should hydrate. This converts passive intention into active performance. Over time, these linguistic habits reinforce mental clarity and strengthen the perception of agency, making each minor adjustment a deliberate act of ownership over the day. Feedback loops amplify growth. Record one observation about each micro-adjustment daily. How did stretching affect energy? Did drinking water change alertness? Did prioritizing a task enhance focus? Observing effects reinforces the habit, creates accountability, and encourages refinement. Even minor feedback magnifies impact because it transforms routine into an experiment, producing insight as well as momentum. Consistency compounds the power of small changes. 1 minute of intentional action each day multiplies over weeks into hours of focused, meaningful behavior. A habit that seems trivial in isolation becomes a keystone of identity, someone who approaches mornings with awareness, energy, and strategy. Repetition strengthens neural pathways, reduces friction, and embeds the behavior deeply into the subconscious, allowing it to function automatically while producing outsized results. Finally, mental visualization enhances outcomes. While performing tiny adjustments, visualize the positive effects cascading through the day. Picture energy flowing into tasks, decisions being made clearly, and challenges being addressed with composure. This mental rehearsal aligns physiology, cognition, and intention, creating a feedback loop that magnifies the effectiveness of even minor morning actions. By combining sensory priming, micro-movement, hydration, precise intentions, environmental cues, micro-feedback, and language optimization, small morning adjustments yield disproportionate life results. They transform ordinary beginnings into strategic advantages, producing clarity, focus, energy, and confidence. Tiny, repeatable actions, executed consistently, compound into massive changes over time. The seemingly insignificant choices of the morning become the engine that drives transformation, proving that life-altering results often begin with the simplest, most deliberate steps executed consistently before the day even fully begins. Chapter 9. Recharge spirit and body every night for success. Evenings are the gateway to restoration, clarity, and growth. The way the body and spirit are cared for before sleep directly influences energy, resilience, and performance the following day. Recharging is not passive. It is an intentional, disciplined act that blends physical restoration with mental clarity and emotional alignment. High performers understand that success is built not just in moments of effort, but in deliberate recovery. Each night offers a unique opportunity to repair what was spent, reflect on what was learned, and recalibrate for what is next. Recharging the body and spirit consistently creates a foundation for sustainable achievement, emotional stability, and long-term fulfillment. Start by establishing a fixed evening transition. Signals to the nervous system help separate the day's activity from restorative practice. Dimming lights, silencing devices, and reducing sensory clutter creates an environment conducive to both relaxation and introspection. Even subtle cues, such as closing blinds or adjusting the room temperature slightly cooler, communicate to the body that it is time to slow and recover. These environmental adjustments enhance sleep quality while allowing reflection and preparation for the next day to proceed without distraction. A core principle of nightly recharge is attention to the body. Muscles, joints, and fascia carry the accumulated stress of the day. Engaging in a brief routine such as stretching, yoga flows, or slow mobility exercises releases tension, improves circulation, and signals readiness for deep rest. Even 10 minutes of targeted stretching promotes better oxygenation and relaxation. Pair movement with mindful breathing. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 2, exhale for 6. The physiological response lowers heart rate, reduces cortisol, and strengthens the mind-body connection. When the body is calm and aligned, the spirit follows naturally. Nutrition and hydration are subtle but critical components. Consuming a light, restorative snack or herbal tea can regulate blood sugar and promote relaxation. Avoid overstimulation through caffeine or sugar close to bedtime. Small adjustments like these stabilize energy, prevent nighttime disruptions, and support recovery at both cellular and mental levels. High performers treat these choices not as indulgence, but as strategic investments in tomorrow's performance. Reflection is equally vital. Review the day with purpose. Consider accomplishments, obstacles, and lessons learned. One practice that strengthens both insight and planning is the 3-part evening recharge. First, identify one meaningful action or success of the day, however small. Recognizing achievement reinforces confidence and motivation. Second, note one challenge and its lessons without judgment. Viewing difficulties as data rather than failure reduces mental clutter and fosters growth. Third, capture one positive intention or action for tomorrow, ensuring the mind carries forward clarity and focus rather than unresolved tension. This practice transforms reflection into a structured, actionable process that restores mental energy and sharpens decision-making. A real-life example demonstrates the power of nightly recharge. Maria, a financial consultant, experienced chronic fatigue and scattered focus by evening. She implemented the 3-part evening recharge alongside 10 minutes of stretching and mindful breathing. Within weeks, Maria observed deeper, more restorative sleep, reduced evening anxiety, and improved concentration the following morning. Tasks that previously seemed overwhelming became manageable, and her emotional resilience strengthened. The simple act of intentional nightly recovery allowed her body and mind to perform at higher levels consistently. Sensory engagement enhances the recharge process. Incorporate soothing sounds, gentle lighting, or calming scents to anchor relaxation. Even minor sensory interventions, such as playing soft instrumental music or using essential oils, condition the brain and body to enter a state conducive to rest and reflection. Over time, these cues become automatic triggers for mental calm, enabling the spirit to disengage from residual stress and prepare for renewal. Digital hygiene is a crucial but often overlooked component. Screens, notifications, and late-night media consumption disrupt circadian rhythms and cognitive restoration. Allocate the final hour of the day to activities that do not involve digital stimulation. Journaling, reading, stretching, or meditation allow the nervous system to transition from high reactivity to calm, reducing mental chatter and enhancing overall recovery. The mind must also be strategically guided toward resolution. A common tool is the mental unload and organize. Take 5 to 10 minutes to write down any tasks, ideas, or concerns that could otherwise intrude during sleep. Once externalized, these items can be categorized: complete now, schedule for tomorrow, delegate, or discard. This process removes mental friction, allowing the subconscious to rest without preoccupation, and ensures that intentional actions carry over into the next day efficiently. Language and internal dialogue play a role in restoration. Replace self-critical or anxious thoughts with neutral, actionable statements. For example, instead of "I didn't finish everything I wanted," say, "Tomorrow I will focus on the most impactful tasks first." This reframing reduces stress, enhances agency, and promotes positive neural patterns that support both emotional equilibrium and strategic planning. Evening rituals also benefit from incorporating gratitude and reflection on purpose. Identifying one element of the day that brought joy, connection, or insight fosters a sense of meaning. This simple acknowledgement nourishes the spirit, balances emotional states, and reinforces values. Over time, the brain learns to seek and recognize moments of fulfillment, creating a habit of positivity that extends beyond the evening routine. Consistency and structure amplify results. Daily repetition conditions both body and mind, reducing resistance and increasing efficiency in nightly recovery. Tracking adherence through journaling, habit trackers, or visual markers reinforces discipline, turning recharge from an occasional act into an ingrained habit. The psychological effect of visible progress enhances motivation, ensuring continuity even when external pressures increase. Flexibility within structure is also important. Life is unpredictable, and some evenings may not allow full practice. In these cases, even brief engagement with core elements, such as 1 minute of deep breathing, a short reflection, or a light stretch, maintains the pattern of recharge. Adaptation ensures the habit persists without punitive self-judgment, preserving both consistency and morale. Over time, these nightly practices compound, generating substantial advantages. Rested and focused mornings, heightened energy, improved decision-making, and emotional resilience are natural outcomes. The spirit feels replenished, the body energized, and the mind clear. Success is no longer constrained by fatigue, stress, or distraction because each evening is strategically harnessed to restore and prepare. Recharging becomes a deliberate investment in tomorrow, creating a continuous cycle where intentional recovery drives sustainable achievement. By integrating movement, mindfulness, reflection, sensory cues, digital discipline, gratitude, and structured planning, nightly recharge becomes a powerful lever for life. The body regenerates, the mind organizes, and the spirit aligns with purpose. Intentional evening practices are not optional. They are essential to living at full capacity, enabling higher performance, emotional stability, and fulfillment. Over time, they transform ordinary nights into a strategic engine of personal and professional growth, proving that the way we close the day directly shapes the quality and trajectory of our lives. Chapter 10. Unstoppable Momentum. Blend morning energy with evening calm. Life flows most powerfully when energy and calm are not separate experiences, but complementary forces that work together. Morning vigor alone cannot sustain progress if the evening leaves the mind restless, and evening calm alone cannot produce results if mornings lack clarity and drive. Unstoppable momentum emerges when the vitality of morning routines is seamlessly blended with the restorative, intentional practices of the evening. This synergy transforms daily life from fragmented bursts of effort into a continuous flowing rhythm where energy, focus, and resilience combine naturally. By strategically harmonizing the start and end of each day, it becomes possible to operate at peak effectiveness while maintaining emotional balance, mental clarity, and long-term sustainability. Begin by recognizing that mornings and evenings are not isolated blocks of time, but points on a continuum. The clarity, focus, and momentum established in the morning set the tone for productivity, creativity, and confidence. When these morning gains are intentionally carried through the day and the evening is structured to recover, reflect and recharge, a feedback loop forms. The energy generated in the first hours fuels accomplishment, while the calm of the last hours consolidates learning, reduces stress and restores reserves for tomorrow. Understanding this interdependence is critical to creating unbroken momentum. Intentional action in the morning provides leverage. Even small victories, completing one prioritized task, engaging in a brief physical activation, or clarifying the day's objectives, set a psychological precedent. These victories signal to the subconscious that progress is expected and attainable, which aligns decision-making, focus, and energy for subsequent tasks. To maximize this effect, one practice that integrates morning energy with evening reflection is the momentum loop. Each morning, select one high-value action that will generate both progress and a sense of achievement. Execute it with full focus, minimizing distractions and external interruptions. This first accomplishment becomes the catalyst for all remaining activities, establishing a chain reaction of productivity. Evenings provide the complementary counterpart, deliberate restoration and insight. As the day concludes, the momentum loop encourages a reflective pause, connecting achievements to outcomes, challenges to lessons, and intentions to future actions. The process is neither passive nor perfunctory. It is an intentional act of integrating the day's experiences. By identifying what worked, what was learned, and what can be improved, the mind consolidates knowledge, the body sheds tension, and the spirit regains balance. This reflection ensures that energy expended during the day is translated into strategic insight rather than dissipating as stress or distraction. A real-world example illustrates the power of blending morning energy with evening calm. Ethan, a marketing strategist, often felt his days were chaotic. Mornings were energetic but scattered, and evenings were restless, leaving him fatigued and reactive. He adopted the momentum loop. Each morning he performed a 10-minute movement sequence, set a single top priority task, and executed it with full attention. Each evening he reflected for 15 minutes, noting progress, lessons, and one action to initiate tomorrow. Within a month, Ethan noticed remarkable changes. His mornings became consistently productive, his evenings peaceful, and the quality of decisions throughout the day improved. Tasks that once felt overwhelming were now manageable, and cumulative momentum accelerated results in both work and personal projects. Sensory alignment enhances the effect of this practice. Morning cues, such as natural light, fresh air, and simple physical activation prime alertness, while evening cues like dimmed lighting, soft sounds, and gentle stretches signal restoration. Over time, these sensory patterns train the nervous system to enter states of heightened energy, or calm, automatically. The body and mind internalize the rhythm, allowing momentum to flow naturally rather than relying on willpower or forceful effort. Micro-adjustments in routine magnify impact. In the morning, a single mindful action, drinking water, a focused breath, or reviewing the day's top task, can trigger clarity and focus. In the evening, noting one meaningful achievement, releasing tension through a stretch, or setting tomorrow's priority consolidates learning and preserves energy. These minor yet deliberate steps compound over weeks, producing outcomes that feel disproportionate to the effort. Momentum grows not through grand gestures, but through consistent, strategic refinement of simple actions. Language reinforces the cycle. Internal dialogue that acknowledges both accomplishment and improvement strengthens motivation and resilience. Replace vague self-talk with precise, actionable statements. I completed the first draft, and tomorrow I will refine key sections rather than I did okay today. Specificity creates accountability and provides a mental map linking effort, progress, and next steps. Words consciously chosen become instruments of alignment between morning action and evening reflection. Journaling is a critical tool for integrating this loop. Each evening, record one victory, one lesson, and one forward-looking action. This transforms fragmented memories and insights into actionable knowledge, which strengthens neural pathways for strategic thinking. Over time, the journal becomes both a record of accomplishment and a guide for continuous improvement. Reviewing past entries in the morning primes the mind to build upon prior success, creating a seamless connection between yesterday's insights and today's actions. Time management enhances momentum. Mornings benefit from focused, uninterrupted blocks for high-value tasks, while evenings benefit from structured time for reflection and restoration. Short, deliberate intervals are sufficient when executed consistently, creating rhythm without overwhelming effort. Even 5 minutes of structured reflection in the evening can magnify morning energy, ensuring continuity and long-term progress. Consistency is the true driver of unstoppable momentum. Repetition strengthens habits, reduces decision fatigue, and embeds the rhythm of energy and calm into identity. By blending vigorous mornings with restorative evenings, momentum becomes automatic. Productivity, focus, and clarity are no longer sporadic, but habitual. The feedback loop between intentional action and reflective recovery creates compounding advantages over time, producing measurable results in performance, well-being, and personal satisfaction. Flexibility ensures sustainability. Life is unpredictable, and full adherence may not always be possible. When constraints arise, preserve the essence of the practice by completing at least one key morning action and one brief evening reflection. Maintaining this minimal engagement preserves rhythm, prevents regression, and keeps the cycle of energy and calm intact. The system is resilient, adapting to circumstances while sustaining momentum. Visualization amplifies results. During both morning action and evening reflection, envision the desired state, tasks accomplished, challenges navigated with composure, and energy maintained throughout the day. Mental rehearsal synchronizes physiological and cognitive processes, reinforcing the bridge between effort and outcome. Visualization ensures that momentum is not accidental, but intentional, guiding both action and recovery with clarity and purpose. Over time, the synergy of morning energy and evening calm produces a life characterized by flow, resilience, and sustained achievement. Days become coherent sequences where effort is purposeful, decisions are clear, and energy is available when needed most. The mind is sharpened, the body restored, and the spirit aligned. Momentum is no longer intermittent or fragile, but unstoppable, fueled by deliberate cycles of activation and recovery. By integrating deliberate morning action, structured reflection, sensory cues, precise language, journaling, and flexible consistency, it is possible to operate at peak effectiveness while maintaining emotional balance. Each day becomes a loop of achievement and restoration, where progress is compounded and resilience is reinforced. This blending of vigor and calm transforms ordinary routines into a strategic framework for long-term success, proving that unstoppable momentum is the natural result of harmonizing morning energy with evening clarity.